I had two choices. Let her disappear with the reset, or kiss her and erase her myself. Welcome, travelers, to Stellar Paradox, where the boundaries between science and imagination dissolve.
If you try to hold her, she won't be there anymore. The station lights flickered like a dying pulse, casting long shadows across Corridor B-17 as Lucas Hale tightened his grip on the diagnostic tablet, the soft hum of failing circuits vibrating through the metal floor beneath his boots, the kind of low, constant tremor you only noticed when you'd been alone too long, when silence started to feel louder than noise. And for Lucas, 12 months on this deep space maintenance station had made silence feel like a second skin, something that wrapped around his thoughts and pressed in from all sides. But tonight was different, because tonight the system logs didn't make sense. Camera feeds looping over empty hallways, thermal scans registering movement where there should have been nothing but cold steel and vacuum beyond the walls. And right there on screen, time-stamped less than 3 minutes ago, was him, standing still, talking to someone who wasn't there. His own reflection caught at an angle that showed his lips moving, his posture softened in a way he didn't recognize, like he was listening, like he wasn't alone. And Lucas frowned, scrubbing back through the footage, watching himself tilt his head slightly, watching the subtle shift in his shoulders as if reacting to a voice the system couldn't record. And then the lights above him buzzed again, a sharp flicker that made him look up, and when he looked back down, the reflection was gone, just an empty corridor, sterile and quiet and real in a way that felt almost disappointing. System glitch, he muttered under his breath, though the words didn't sit right, didn't land with the usual certainty, because glitches didn't leave impressions like that, didn't make your chest feel tight like you'd just forgotten something important. And then he heard it, not through the comms, not through the speakers, but behind him, soft, almost like a breath brushing against the edge of awareness. You saw it too, didn't you? Lucas froze, every instinct telling him to turn around, to confirm, to prove he wasn't imagining things. But something in that voice, something fragile and steady at the same time, made him hesitate, like stepping too fast might break whatever this was. And slowly, carefully, he turned, and there she was, not fully there, not solid the way a person should be, her outline shimmering faintly like heat rising off asphalt in summer, her skin carrying a soft blue-silver glow that didn't quite touch the floor beneath her, like she wasn't anchored to the same rules as everything else in the room. Her eyes fixed on him with a mixture of curiosity and something deeper, something that felt almost like relief. And Lucas took a step forward without thinking, just one, instinct pulling him closer to something human in a place that had forgotten what human felt like. And she flinched, not back, not away, but like the space between them had suddenly become dangerous. "Don't," she said quickly, her voice sharper now, more real. "Please, don't come any closer." And Lucas stopped, his boot hovering for half a second before settling back, the air between them suddenly heavy, charged with something he couldn't name. And for the first time in a long while, Lucas Hale realized he wasn't alone, and somehow, that was the most unsettling part of all. Lucas did not move again, not forward, not back, as if the exact distance between them had suddenly become a boundary drawn by something far more precise than fear. And for a long second neither of them spoke, the station lights humming softly overhead, the air recycler clicking in slow, tired intervals like an old clock refusing to quit. And he realized he was holding his breath, like any sudden motion might shatter her, or worse, erase her entirely. "You are not on any manifest," he said. Finally, his voice steady but quieter than usual, the kind of quiet that came from choosing each word carefully. And she tilted her head slightly, the motion smooth but just a fraction delayed, as if her body had to remember how to follow itself. "I am not on anything," she replied, and there was no sarcasm in it, no defense, just a simple truth that hung in the air between them. Lucas glanced down at his tablet, the diagnostic screen still open, rows of data scrolling in soft green light. Nothing flagged, nothing broken, nothing that explained why a person was standing in front of him who did not exist in any system the station recognized. "You showed up in the camera feed," he said, lifting the screen just enough for her to see, though he noticed she did not step closer, did not even lean in, as if proximity itself was something she measured carefully. Only when you were not looking directly, she said, her eyes flicking briefly to the tablet and then back to him. The system sees patterns, not presence. I exist between those patterns. Lucas frowned, trying to process that, trying to fit it into something technical, something explainable, because that was how he survived out here, by turning the unknown into a problem he could fix. But this was not a broken valve or a faulty relay. This was something else. Entirely. So what happens if I keep looking at you? He asked, and for the first time, something like hesitation crossed her expression, a faint dimming of the glow along her outline. Then I become less, she said, the words slower now, like she was choosing them the same way he was. Observation anchors reality, and I am not supposed to be anchored. Lucas let out a quiet breath, rubbing the back of his neck as he paced half a step to the side, careful, deliberate, never closing the gap between them. And he noticed something else then, something subtle but undeniable. The closer he shifted, even by inches, the more her form flickered, not disappearing, but thinning, like light stretched too far, and he stopped immediately, his boots settling back into place. Okay, he said softly, more to himself than to her. So distance matters, and she nodded, a small motion, almost grateful. Yes, she said, and the word carried a quiet relief that made his chest tighten in a way he did not expect, because relief meant she had been afraid he would not understand, or worse, that he would not care, and Lucas swallowed, glancing around the empty corridor, the steel walls, the flickering lights, the endless quiet that had defined his life for the past year, and then back at her, this impossible presence that should not exist, and yet felt more real than anything he had touched in weeks. What is your name? He asked, and for a moment she did not answer, her gaze shifting slightly, like she was searching for something she might have lost. Arya, she said finally, the name soft, almost uncertain, as if it belonged to her and did not at the same time, and Lucas nodded once, grounding it, making it real in the only way he knew how. Lucas, he replied, and something in the air shifted, not physically, not something any sensor would ever detect, but something quieter, deeper, like 2 points in a vast empty space had just acknowledged each other. And for the first time since he boarded this station, Lucas Hale felt the silence change shape. Lucas did not check the system logs again that night, not because he had solved the problem, but because for the first time in months he was not trying to solve anything at all. He was simply standing there, measuring his breathing against the soft, almost imperceptible shimmer of Arya's form, learning the invisible boundary that kept her whole, and it became a strange kind of discipline, like balancing on the edge of something fragile and knowing that even curiosity could break it. How far? He asked quietly, shifting his weight but keeping his boots planted. How far before it starts to affect you? Arya looked down, not at the floor, but at the space between them, her gaze tracing something Lucas could not see. About 6 feet, she said, and the number landed with a precision that comforted him more than it should have, because numbers meant rules, and rules meant control, and control meant he could keep her here. At least for now. Lucas nodded once, then stepped back half a foot just to be sure, watching as the faint flicker along her outline steadied, her glow smoothing into something more consistent, and he exhaled slowly, not realizing until that moment how tense he had been. Okay, he murmured, 6 feet is safe. Arya watched him with that same quiet intensity, but there was something new in her expression now, something softer, like trust beginning to take shape in a place where trust did not come easily. You are adapting quickly, she said, and Lucas gave a small shrug, one corner of his mouth lifting just slightly. I fix things for a living, he replied, then paused, correcting himself under his breath, or at least I try to. And for a brief second, Arya smiled, not wide, not exaggerated, just a subtle curve that made her seem more real than any system reading ever could, and Lucas felt it again, that shift in the air, like the station itself was holding its breath with them. You are not trying to fix me, she said after a moment, and there was no accusation in it, just observation. No, Lucas answered, shaking his head slowly. I am trying not to break you. The words hung there, simple and unpolished, but they seemed to settle into her in a way that made her glow deepen, just slightly, like a response he could not measure but could still feel. Most would try to understand first, she said. To categorize, to control. Lucas glanced at the walls. The endless panels of metal and circuitry, the systems that defined everything out here, and then, back at her. Understanding can wait, he said quietly. You disappearing cannot. And that was the moment something changed, not in the station, not in the systems, but between them. A line crossed without movement, a connection formed without touch, and Aria's eyes softened in a way that made Lucas look away for just a second, not out of discomfort, but because it felt like looking directly at something too important, something he was not ready to name. Lucas, she said, testing his name. Like it was something new to her, something she wanted to hold on to without holding. Do humans always measure distance like this? He let out a quiet breath, a faint laugh under his words. Only when it matters, he said. And he realized then that it did matter. More than the failing circuits, more than the glitching cameras, more than the long, empty months that had come before this moment. Because for the first time, the space between him and something else was not empty. It was full of meaning, and all it took to keep it that way was not stepping any closer. Lucas started bringing things the next night, not because she had asked, but because doing something felt safer than standing still with questions he could not answer. A sealed water pouch, a ration bar, even though he had no idea if she could use any of it, and he placed them carefully on the floor between them, stopping well before the invisible 6-foot line, watching her reaction instead of the items themselves. I do not need those, Aria said softly, her gaze lingering on the objects as if they belonged to a different reality entirely. I figured, Lucas replied, brushing a hand over the back of his neck, a habit he had picked up when he did not know what else to do, but it felt wrong not to bring something. Aria looked back at him, her expression shifting slightly, not confusion, not quite understanding, but something close, like she was learning a language that did not have direct translations. Humans bring things when they care, she said, more as a realization than a question, and Lucas gave a small nod. Yeah, he answered, even when it does not fix anything. The station lights dimmed briefly, then steadied again, casting a softer glow across the corridor, and for a moment the flicker made Aria's form ripple, her edges blurring like a reflection disturbed by a passing wave, and Lucas instinctively stepped back another inch, just to be sure, his body adjusting before his mind caught up, and she noticed, of course she noticed. You are careful, she said, and there was something in her voice now, something quieter, almost fragile. I am trying to be, Lucas answered, his eyes fixed on the space between them, that invisible boundary that had become more important than any line he had ever respected. What happens if I forget? He asked after a moment, the question slipping out before he could stop it, and Aria's glow dimmed just slightly, not fading, but softening, like the answer carried weight she did not want to place on him. Then I would not be here anymore, she said, and there was no drama in it, no fear, just a simple truth that settled into the air with a quiet finality. Lucas swallowed, his jaw tightening for a brief second before he forced himself to relax, because tension did not help, fear did not help, only awareness did, and he nodded once, slow and deliberate, as if committing the rule to memory in a way he could not afford to forget. Then I will not forget, he said, and Aria studied him for a long moment, her eyes searching his face like she was looking for something deeper than the words themselves, something that could not be measured or recorded. And whatever she found seemed to ease something in her, because her form steadied again, her glow returning to that soft, constant light that made her feel almost real, almost present. You are different, she said quietly, and Lucas let out a small breath, not quite a laugh, not quite disbelief. I get that a lot, he replied, though his voice carried less certainty than usual, because out here, different did not always mean better. Sometimes it just meant alone, and he had grown used to that, until now, until this strange, impossible connection that existed without touch, without proximity, built entirely on distance and restraint. And he realized then that helping her was not about fixing anything, not about solving the impossible physics of her existence. It was about choosing, over and over again, not to cross a line that would make things easier for him, but end everything for her. And in that choice, in that quiet discipline, something unfamiliar began to take shape inside him, something steady, something human, something that did not need to be understood to matter. Lucas stopped bringing things after that, not because the instinct went away, but because he began to understand that what Arya needed was not something he could carry in his hands. It was something quieter, something measured in inches and seconds and choices, and the station seemed to notice the change too. Or maybe he was just noticing it more. The way the lights dimmed slower now. The way the hum of the systems felt less like noise and more like a rhythm he could follow. And each night, he returned to the same spot in corridor B-17, stopping at the same mark on the floor he had memorized without needing to look. 6 feet. Not a step closer, not a step less. And she would be there, already waiting, like she had learned his timing as precisely as he had learned her limits. "You always come back," Arya said one cycle, her voice softer than before, less uncertain, and Lucas gave a small nod, leaning lightly against the cold metal wall behind him, careful not to shift his position forward even by accident. "There is not much else to do out here," he replied, but they both knew that was not the reason, not anymore, because there were dozens of maintenance tasks he could have stretched, reports he could have rewritten, anything to fill the hours, and yet he chose this, chose her, chose the distance that kept her real, and Arya seemed to understand that without him saying it, because her glow warmed just slightly, a subtle change that Lucas had learned to recognize as something close to comfort. "Where I come from," she said after a pause, her gaze drifting not to the corridor, but somewhere beyond it, somewhere Lucas could not follow. "Closeness is how we know something is real." Lucas tilted his head, considering that, the idea settling in slowly. "For us, it is the same," he said. "We shake hands, we hug, we hold on." He stopped himself there, the last phrase catching in his throat because it meant more than he wanted it to. And Arya noticed, of course she noticed. "But with me, closeness removes me," she said, not as a complaint, but as a fact she had already accepted long before he ever arrived. And Lucas looked down at the space between them, that invisible line that had become more solid than any wall on the station. "Then we do it differently," he said quietly, lifting his gaze back to her. "We stay." The word lingered, simple but heavy, and for a moment neither of them moved, the station humming softly around them, the lights casting that familiar blue-gray glow, and Arya's expression shifted again, something deeper. This time, something that made her look both stronger and more fragile all at once. "Do humans always choose the harder way?" she asked, and Lucas let out a slow breath, his eyes softening just slightly. "Not always," he admitted. "But sometimes the easier way costs too much." And that was when it happened, not a system alert, not a warning, but a subtle shift in the air, a faint tremor through the floor beneath his boots, barely noticeable, but enough to make Lucas glance toward the far end of the corridor where the emergency panels flickered once, then twice, and he straightened instinctively, every trained reflex pulling his attention outward, toward the station, toward the systems that kept everything alive. But then he looked back at Arya, and for the first time since he met her, he saw something new in her expression, not curiosity, not calm, but uncertainty. And it made his chest tighten in a way no system failure ever had, because this was different. This was not something he could fix with tools or code. And he realized in that moment that whatever was coming, whatever was changing, it would not just affect the station, it would affect her, and the distance he had learned so carefully to maintain might not be enough to keep her here. The tremor came again, stronger. This time, a low vibration that traveled through the metal floor and into Lucas's boots, up through his legs, subtle but unmistakable, and the station lights flickered in response, not failing, not yet, but hesitating, like something deep within the system was being interrupted, and Lucas's instincts snapped into place immediately, years of training overriding everything else as he turned toward the nearest wall panel, pulling up a diagnostic overlay on his tablet, lines of data scrolling. Faster than before, system alerts stacking in quiet yellow warnings, grid instability. He muttered, eyes scanning the readouts. Power redistribution loop is lagging. But even as he said it, his attention kept pulling back to her, to Arya, because something about the way her form reacted to the flicker told him this was not just a station problem. Her glow stuttered in sync with the lights, her outline thinning for a fraction of a second before stabilizing again, like she was tied to the same fragile rhythm. "Lucas," she said, and there was no hesitation in her voice now. Only urgency wrapped in that same calm tone she always carried. "The system is correcting itself." He nodded without looking away from the tablet. Fingers moving across the screen, isolating subsystems, trying to trace the source. "It always does," he replied, but his voice was tighter now, less certain. Because the correction cycle was not behaving the way it should, it was resetting, not stabilizing, and resets meant clearance. Resets meant wiping temporary anomalies, and Arya was nothing if not an anomaly. And the realization hit him all at once, sharp and immediate, his hand freezing mid-motion as the data aligned in a way he could not ignore. "They are preparing a full system reset," he said quietly, more to himself than to her. And for the first time since he met her, Arya looked smaller, not physically, but in presence. Like the space she occupied was already beginning to loosen its hold on her. "Then I will not remain," she said, and the words were simple. But they landed heavier than anything else in the room. Lucas looked up, meeting her eyes, and for a moment everything else faded. The flickering lights, the humming systems, the scrolling data, all of it pushed to the edges of his awareness. Because this was the problem that mattered, not the station, not the mission, her. "No," he said, shaking his head once, sharp and immediate. "There has to be a way to isolate your signal, to keep you from being flagged." He moved again, faster now, pulling up deeper system layers, bypassing standard protocols, digging into code he had not touched since his pilot days, the parts of the system that most people avoided because they were too complex, too sensitive. But Lucas did not have time to avoid anything. "You cannot anchor me to your systems," Arya said, and there was something almost gentle in her tone, like she was trying to ease him into accepting something he did not want to accept. "I am not part of them. Then I will make you part of them." Lucas shot back, not raising his voice, but tightening it, focusing it, because this was what he did. He found solutions, he built bridges where none existed. He refused to accept limits when they cost too much, and Arya watched him, really watched him, her gaze steady, her glow flickering softly with each pulse of the failing lights. "If you try to force it," she said slowly, "you may lose me sooner." And that stopped him, not completely, not enough to make him give up, but enough to make him hesitate, his fingers hovering over the screen, caught between action and consequence, between doing something and risking everything. And the station hummed around them, louder now, more urgent, like time itself was narrowing. And Lucas realized that this was no longer just about distance, no longer just about not stepping closer. Now it was about choosing how far he was willing to go to keep her here, even if the only way to save her might be the one thing he had spent all this time trying to avoid. Lucas stared at the screen, the reset timer now visible in the upper corner, counting down in silent, relentless seconds, each number dropping like a decision he could not undo. And for a moment, just a moment, he did nothing, because every solution he had ever trusted required time, calculation, distance from emotion, and none of those things existed anymore. Not here. Not with her standing 6 feet away and fading in sync with a system that did not even know she existed. "How long?" he asked. His voice quieter now, steadier in a way that came from accepting the shape of the problem rather than fighting it. And Arya looked at him, really looked this time, like she was memorizing something she would not get to keep. "Until the reset completes," she said. "I will begin to lose coherence in less than 2 minutes." Lucas nodded once, his jaw tightening, his eyes flicking between her and the timer. 1 minute 57 seconds, 1 minute 56, and he exhaled slowly, grounding himself in the only thing that had ever made sense to him. Choice, not systems, not rules, just choice. "There is something you are not telling me," he said, and Arya hesitated, just for a fraction of a second, but it was enough for him to see it, the gap between what she had said and what she had not. "If I anchor you," he continued, the words careful, deliberate. "If I make you real in this space, what happens?" The station lights flickered again, harder this time, and her form wavered with it, thinning at the edges before pulling itself back. Together, and when she spoke, her voice carried something new, something heavier. "You already know," she said, and Lucas shook his head once, sharp, refusing the implication even as he understood it. "Say it," he said, because hearing it mattered, because truth spoken out loud had weight, and weight made decisions real. Arya held his gaze, and for the first time since he met her, there was no softness in her expression, only clarity. "If you anchor me through contact," she said, "through the kind of contact your kind uses to confirm connection, I will collapse into a single fixed state." Lucas swallowed, the meaning settling into him before she finished. "You will remain," she added, her voice almost gentle again. "I will not." The timer dropped to 1 minute 28 seconds, and the corridor seemed to shrink around them, the air heavier, the distance between them no longer just space, but time, a narrowing window that demanded a choice he could not delay any longer. Lucas took a breath, then another, his hands lowering slowly from the tablet as he let it hang useless at his side, because this was not something he could code, not something he could reroute or repair. This was something simpler and far more difficult. "So those are the options," he said quietly, more to himself than to her. "Do nothing and lose you to the reset." His eyes met hers again, steady now. "Or come closer and lose you anyway." Arya did not respond, did not argue, because there was nothing to argue, only truth, and the seconds kept falling. 1 minute 12, 1 minute 11, and Lucas felt something shift inside him. Not panic, not desperation, but something steadier, something that had been building since the moment he chose not to step closer the first time, something that had nothing to do with logic and everything to do with who he was. And he took a single step forward, just one, closing the distance by inches, and Arya's form flickered immediately, her glow stuttering as if the space itself resisted the change. "Lucas," she said, and there was no fear in her voice, only understanding, and he stopped, exactly where he needed to, not rushing, not hesitating, just choosing, because for the first time, the question was not how to keep her here, but how to make it mean something, that she had been. Lucas did not rush the next step, even as the timer dropped below 1 minute, because rushing meant panic and panic meant mistakes, and this was not something he could afford to get wrong, not when the cost was her existence. And he took another step forward, slow and deliberate, closing the distance to 5 feet, and immediately Arya's form reacted, her glow fracturing into faint, unstable lines that shimmered across her silhouette like a signal struggling to hold shape. And yet she did not step back, did not retreat. She held her position, her eyes locked on his, steady, accepting. "You should stop," she said softly, but there was no command in it, no resistance, just a truth offered without expectation, and Lucas shook his head once, the motion small but absolute. "If I stop, you fade with the reset," he replied, his voice even, grounded in the same quiet certainty he had carried since the moment he made his choice. "If I continue, you fade because of me." Arya finished for him, and the words did not accuse, they completed, and for a brief second, something like a smile touched her expression, fragile and real. "You understand now." Lucas took another step, for feet, and the air between them seemed to tighten, not physically, but perceptually, like space itself was resisting the reduction, her outline flickering faster now, edges dissolving and reforming in uneven intervals. And he could feel it too, not as a physical force, but as a pressure behind his eyes, a subtle distortion that told him he was crossing into something that was never meant to be crossed. "I understand enough," he said quietly, and the timer dropped to 43 seconds, the station lights dimming further. Emergency systems preparing for the reset cycle, and Lucas kept moving, 3 feet now, his steps measured, controlled, each one a decision he did not hesitate to make. And Arya's form thinned further, her glow no longer steady, but pulsing in uneven waves, like a heartbeat losing rhythm. And still she did not move away, because there was nowhere for her to go, because distance had always been her protection, and now that protection was being removed by the only person who had ever chosen to respect it. "Lucas," she said again, and this time there was something else in her voice, not fear, not regret, but something deeper, something that felt like acceptance shaped into sound. And he stopped at 2 feet, close enough now that he could see the details he had never been able to before, the subtle variations in her glow, the way her form seemed to exist in layers rather than a single surface, the faint distortion of light around her like she was bending reality just by being there. And for a moment, just a moment, He let himself take it in, not as a problem, not as an anomaly, but as her, as something that had existed beside him in silence and distance, and had somehow become the most important thing in this empty place. "I do not want to be the reason you disappear," he said, his voice softer now. The words heavier because they were true, and Aria's expression shifted, something warm breaking through the fading instability. "You are not the reason," she said. And even as her form flickered, even as the light that defined her began to unravel at the edges, her gaze remained clear, focused entirely on him. "You are the only reason I was here at all." The timer dropped to 21 seconds, and Lucas took the final step, closing the distance to 1 foot, the space between them now charged with something that was no longer just physics, no longer just rules, but choice and consequence intertwined. And he lifted his hand slowly, not reaching yet, just holding it there, suspended between them, because this was the last moment where both possibilities still existed, the last second before one truth replaced the other. And Aria did not move away. She did not hesitate. She simply remained, as she always had, waiting not for the outcome, but for the choice that would define it. Lucas did not hesitate when the final seconds began to fall, because hesitation had already been spent, measured out in every careful step, every inch he had refused to take until now, and his hand moved the rest of the way, closing the last foot of distance as the station lights dimmed into a low, steady glow, the hum of the systems flattening into a single, continuous tone that seemed to stretch time thin. And when his fingers met her, there was no impact, no resistance, just a shift, a quiet, impossible shift, like touching something that had never been meant to be touched. And Aria's form reacted instantly, not breaking, not shattering, but collapsing inward, her glow folding into itself in soft layers of light that drew closer to the point of contact. And Lucas felt it, not as heat or pressure, but as clarity, as if something vast and distant had suddenly aligned with him for the briefest moment. "Lucas," she said, and her voice was still there, still hers, but quieter now, like it was traveling from somewhere further away with each passing second. And he did not pull back, did not try to stop what he had already chosen, because this was not about stopping anything anymore. This was about being there, fully, completely, for the only moment that mattered. And he leaned in just slightly, closing the final space, not rushed, not desperate, just certain. And when his lips met hers, it was not like anything he had ever known. There was no warmth, no texture, only a sensation, like light passing through him, like something becoming real and unreal at the same time. And Aria's form dissolved completely in that instant, not violently, not abruptly, but gently, like a reflection fading as the surface that held it disappeared. And the corridor was suddenly empty, the space where she had been now filled only with the soft, neutral light of the station as the reset completed, the hum of the systems stabilizing into their normal rhythm, steady, reliable, unchanged. And Lucas stood there alone, his hand still raised, his breath slow and controlled, because there was nothing else to do, nothing to fix, nothing to hold on to. And for a long moment he did not move, not because he was frozen, but because moving would mean accepting that the space in front of him was truly empty. And then, gradually, he lowered his hand, the motion, small, almost careful, like he was afraid of disturbing something that might still be there. And the silence settled back into place, familiar and vast and complete, but it did not feel the same, not anymore, because something had changed, not in the station, not in the systems, but in him. And he turned slowly, glancing at the wall panel beside him as it flickered once before stabilizing, a brief, almost imperceptible glitch that should not have been there after a full reset. And he paused, his eyes narrowing slightly, not in confusion, but in recognition, because the flicker carried a pattern, a rhythm he had come to know without ever measuring it. And he exhaled softly, the smallest hint of something shifting at the edge of his expression, not quite a smile, not quite relief, but something quieter, something steadier, as he stepped back into the corridor, into the work, into the silence that was no longer entirely empty. And though there was no voice, no form, no light beside him, there was something else now, something subtle and constant, like a presence that did not need distance or touch to exist. And for the first time, Lucas Hale understood that some connections did not disappear when they were lost. they simply changed where they lived.
Thank you for watching. Join Stellar Paradox. New stories every week, and some of them may already be watching you.